But by courtroom standards, his erratic and, at times, disrespectful behavior was unusual and potentially complicated for the legal process. Jones and his media company, Free Speech Systems, were ordered Friday to pay $45.2 million in punitive damages on top of $4.11 million in compensatory damages to the parents of 6-year-old Jesse Lewis, who was killed with 19 other first graders and 6 educators in the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings in Newtown, Connecticut. After years of false hoax claims, Jones admitted under oath that the shooting was 100% real and even shook hands with the parents. But the bombastic version of Jones was always lurking under the surface or even on full display away from the courthouse. On the first day, he arrived at the courthouse with "Save the First" written on silver tape over his mouth. Jones, who wasn't in court for the verdict, often skipped testimony to appear on his daily InfoWars program, where the attacks on the judge and jury continued. During one show, Jones said the jury was pulled from a group of people who don't know what planet they live on. That clip was shown to the jury. So was a snapshot from his InfoWars website showing Judge Maya Guerra Gamble engulfed in flames. She laughed at that. Jones was only slightly less combative in court. He was the only witness to testify in his defense. Gamble warned Jones' lawyers before it even started that, if he tried to turn it into a performance, she would clear the courtroom and shut down the live stream broadcasting the trial to the world. When Jones arrived for Lewis' testimony, Gamble asked if he was chewing gum, a violation of a strict rule in her courtroom. She'd scolded his attorney Andino Reynolds several times already. Jones insisted he was only massaging the hole with his tongue. In my opinion, Jones is a money-making juggernaut, crazy like a fox, Covert said. I don't know what it is designed to accomplish other than being on brand for Alex Jones, said Goldberg. Monetary sanctions or even post-trial contempt charges are also a possibility. Gamble had to be careful how she handled it all, Covert said. Jones' bizarre behavior is putting the judge in a very difficult box, said Covert. Jones skipped Heslin's testimony when he described for the jury holding his dead son in his arms with the bullet hole through his head. Heslin said he wanted to confront Jones face-to-face and called his absence that day cowardly. Jones was instead appearing on his daily broadcast. Jones was in the room when Lewis took the stand, sitting barely 10 feet, 3 meters, away as she looked directly at him. I know you know that, Lewis said. When Lewis asked Jones if he thought she was an actor, Jones answered, no, but was cut off by Gamble, who scolded him for speaking out of turn. At the end of the day, Jones and the parents shook hands. Lewis even handed Jones a sip of water to help calm a persistent cough Jones said was caused by a torn larynx. Her attorney Wesley Ball quickly stepped in to break it up. No, Ball snapped at Jones, "You are not doing this." Jones was the only witness in his defense. His testimony pushed the rules of the court so often that the plaintiffs openly questioned whether Jones and his attorneys were trying to sabotage the proceedings and force a mistrial. At one point, Jones appeared flabbergasted when the family's attorneys announced that Jones' legal team had mistakenly sent them 2 years' worth of data from his cell phone, a massive data dump they said should have been produced in discovery but wasn't. They said it proved he'd been receiving texts and emails about Sandy Hook and his media company's finances that he hadn't turned over under court orders. "This is your Perry Mason moment," Jones snapped. Plaintiff's attorney Mark Bankston said Thursday that the House committee investigating the Jan. 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol had requested those materials and that he intended to give it to them. The January 6 committee first subpoenaed Jones in November, demanding a deposition and documents related to his efforts to spread misinformation about the 2020 election and a rally on the day of the attack. During the trial, Jones often spoke out of turn and was cut off when he veered into conspiracies, ranging from the September He continued to call into question some of the biggest events and significant government institutions in American life. "This," the judge told him, "is not your show." Tom reported from Chicago. Find AP's full coverage of the Alex Jones trial at https://appnews.com.